Hello and welcome to IT Chronicles. We're here in Las Vegas at the Gartner Data Center Conference. And today we're here with Charlie Betz.
Carlos.
And Hank Marquis. Great seeing you again, Hank, after all these years.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So Hank, you're working with Gartner now, and sounds like you're kind of revisiting some of our roots in the past. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and where we're going with things?
Sure. So here at Gartner, I cover INO, people, organization, and culture, which is something that we've obviously been talking about for the last 15 years or so. The interesting thing is that we have a tool called IT Score for INO, which is a maturity assessment our clients take. And the median, based on an N of about 4,700 clients, is 2.36. And it's been plus or minus 1 or 2 points, tenths of a point for the last several years. So it wavers to 2.32, 2.36, and so on. So what we're finding is that organizations apparently are locked into a certain kind of maturity and really thinking about how we can pull, or not actually push, but pull people out of that capability, because it's not business-centric, as we know.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, for those of our viewers who aren't familiar with Gartner's methodology, what constitutes a higher maturity culture?
Mm-hmm. So lower maturity cultures are focused on technology. And when you get into that sort of level 1, level 2 is you're technical, but you're beginning to think about process. When you get to level 3, you've got constructs and artifacts that center you more on services. When you get into level 4, you're service oriented completely. You actually have a portfolio, catalog, you know what services really are. And when you get to level 5, you're business oriented. And the metrics show that about 25% are level 1, 65 or so percent are level 2, so fully 90% are less than level 3, about 10% at level 3, and less than 0.1% at levels 4 and 5 in terms of being business oriented. But there are some really interesting things about what those people at the high end of the maturity are doing that others are not. But so those are the kind of things that I'm investigating, working, writing, researching.
So, I mean, so what is it that's holding us back? I mean, again, we've been talking about this for years, seen decades, technically, I guess.
Yeah.
What is holding us back? Is it just that we keep addressing the technology and it's the easy fix, or people just can't change? What do you know?
Well, if I knew, right. But what I can tell you is that if you think about some things that you don't see, if you think about an individual contributor who's a software developer working in an agile shop, and they're sitting there working on some code, and they're about to do something that would make the user of that application run back to the mainframe or something. And then they happen to look over their shoulder and see the persona on the wall of Sammy, the salesperson, which is a picture of a man or a woman with a cell phone jumping into an open cab. And then that developer goes, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I mean, Sammy will never be able to access that. The lowest level developer in an agile shop has that support system around them. That very concept of even having a support system is missing in INO. And that's where DevOps initiatives, bimodal IT, and so on comes from. But it's because for so long we've been locked in the basement, really. If you think about it, it's the engine room. What do? We focus on the technology. We have the pipes that put the water out. The water's 98.6 degrees consistently. We have no idea if they're making tea with the water. We don't know if they're washing the baby with the water. We just don't know what people do. We're not thinking about the transactions that are occurring over the either microservices or people or some combination that flow over those pipes. And that's the change that has to happen, and that's what we're working on.
Right. Well, when you talk about the developer being aware of Sammy, I mean that's empathy, and of course that's a topic that comes up in DevOps and Agile discussions of culture. I think that's probably one of the bigger developments in the whole culture and organization front. Certainly, the idea of 2 pizza teams, small cross-functional teams, with people perhaps from infrastructure, certainly developers as well as testers and QA folks, all on the same team, solving a common problem rather than putting people on deeply skilled but very siloed functional teams and expecting processes to stitch the value together between them. It's a big change we're seeing.
Well, and I think that's the thing, and I've different readings and stuff. It does seem that we keep missing the aspect of why am I doing what I'm doing? How is it contributing to the greater good? Not in a totally holistic manner, but from a corporate perspective, I'm developing that code, like you said. How does this really contribute? And if I understood it, I may do it slightly different. I may stub out things because I know strategically as an organization we're going somewhere else 6 months from now, 12 months from now. If I don't, my objective is, and I'm being rewarded, and this is where I have a real frustration, where we incent the very behaviors we don't want.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we financially structure them, managerial, we structure them that way, and then we wonder why it doesn't, you know, why don't we take risk, right? Yeah, that's the old thing. So yes, I mean, you know, obviously you guys do the assessments. So how do you help some of the organizations try to get, you know, even to 2.8?
Sure.
Because I'm sure that would financially be a tremendous gain.
Yep. So a couple things. We do the evaluation. We look at it. It's diagnostic. There's 4 domains. There's 21 attributes. There's 221 questions or topics to do. So we kind of do that drill down. But if you step away from that thinking and you kind of take a page out of the playbooks of Uber and some of these other platforms out there, you can ask yourself, how can you apply that kind of thinking here? And it's really a very simple question to answer, but very few people in IT can answer, which is, what do you do for whom and why? It's pretty profound, and there's an instant answer. Of course, we keep the lights on, and then as you go through working with the client, they begin to realize, I have no idea what I do for whom and why. I don't have a clue. And then you can start, now we have the awareness to say, so now let's think about segmenting your audience. How many people open change requests? 960. How many groups are there? 16. Do you have one change management form? Yes. Okay, so clearly you could do something to improve and to optimize. Oh, coincidentally, that lines directly up with your lowest domain, which is process, interactions, which basically is whether you know who you're working with. Think of a Six Sigma like a SIPOC or a SIPIC type, suppliers, inputs, outputs, and customers. So, but you have to bring them to that point of understanding that you really have to focus on the transactions that are flowing over whatever you do, whether you run change management, you run the service desk, you're running service management, whatever you're doing. The simple question, what do you do for whom and why, has to be asked, and the realization that you don't know, that's the starting point to move forward.
Right.
I think one of the things we often see in INO, of course, is that sometimes legitimately their customers are other technologists. But I think you can still have that sense of empathy.
Absolutely.
If you're running the private cloud, yeah, your customer's not Sammy, it's that developer who's supporting Sammy, but that developer also has an identity and a persona. So I think in any sense, as long as we understand service, in terms of service, we can go there. But
absolutely, completely agree. But it's just been so long, we haven't had the requirement to do that. Yeah. And now we're getting exposed to it from some of the other groups that are accelerating, and the time to value, of course, is the metric that's driving all this, because that's why we have DevOps, that's why we have bimodal, that's why we're doing all these things. So and we can actually make some pretty significant improvements in that way. Yeah, I agree with that.
Wow, that's crazy, and yeah, it is sad in a way and depressing in a way that we keep talking about it, but at the same time,
still here.
We're still here.
With the gray hair now. With the gray hair now.
I'll take gray. That gray's good. Yeah. But it is what it is, and we have to make that next step if we're going to really deliver on that. So Hank, thank you so much for joining us again. It's always great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
And Charlie, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Carlos.
Thank you.
Thanks.